Am I overreacting? Maybe I'm too sensitive. I must have imagined it. Why can't I just let things go? If those sentences live inside your head, if you have whispered them to yourself after a fight, after a conversation that left you feeling confused and small, after a moment where you were completely certain of something and then somehow ended up apologizing for it, I need you to hear this clearly. You are not going crazy. You are not overreacting. You are not too sensitive. You are being gaslit. And by the end of this video, you will never doubt yourself about it again. The term gaslighting comes from a 1944 film called Gaslight, in which a husband secretly dims the gaslights in the house and then tells his wife she is imagining it. He makes her question her own perception, her own memory, her own sanity, until she no longer trusts herself enough to know what is real. That is gaslighting. Not a dramatic word, not an overused internet term, a documented, clinical form of psychological manipulation in which someone systematically causes you to question your own reality. Psychologists define it as the deliberate distortion of another person's perception of events, memory, or emotional responses, for the purpose of gaining power and avoiding accountability. Notice the two goals, power and avoiding accountability. Gaslighting is never accidental. It is always in service of one of those two things, and it is classified by trauma psychologists and abuse researchers as a form of emotional and psychological abuse. Not a communication style, not a personality difference. Abuse. Gaslighting doesn't arrive with a warning. It arrives wearing the language of reason. Here are the 5 most common phrases, and what they are actually saying beneath the words. Phrase 1. That never happened. What it sounds like, a factual correction. What it actually is, an erasure of your memory, delivered with confidence. Over time, if someone denies your memories often enough, you start to keep a running list of things you're not sure about. Your certainty erodes. Their version becomes the default. Phrase 2. You're too sensitive. What it sounds like, honest feedback about your emotional state. What it actually is, a reframe that makes your feelings the problem instead of the behavior that caused them. After hearing this enough times, you stop reporting how you feel. Not because you stop feeling, but because you stop believing your feelings are worth mentioning. Phrase 3. You're remembering it wrong. What it sounds like, they're clarifying the facts. What it actually is, they are installing doubt about your own memory. Gaslighters use this phrase specifically in arguments they cannot win. If they can make you uncertain about what happened, they don't have to take responsibility for it. Phrase 4. You're crazy, paranoid, unstable. What it sounds like, a description of your behavior. What it actually is, a preemptive discrediting. If they can establish you as crazy, then anything you report, accuse, or feel can be dismissed before it's even considered. This phrase is the nuclear option of gaslighting. Phrase 5. I was just joking. You can't take a joke. What it sounds like, an explanation. What it actually is, retroactive license to say anything, and punishment for being hurt by it. It trains you to laugh at things that hurt you, and to apologize for having been hurt. Have you heard any of these, more than once, from the same person? That is not coincidence. That is a pattern. Here is the cruelest truth about gaslighting. It works best on people who are thoughtful, self-aware, and genuinely open to being wrong. If you are someone who takes responsibility seriously, who regularly asks yourself, could I have handled that better? Who would rather admit fault than create conflict? Then gaslighting has found its ideal target. Because a person who never questions themselves cannot be gaslit, they simply reject the alternate reality. But a person who takes feedback seriously, who genuinely considers the possibility that they are wrong, will take the gaslighter's version of events under honest consideration. And honest consideration, repeated enough times on false information, produces false conclusions. You don't doubt yourself because you are weak. You doubt yourself because you are the kind of person who actually cares about the truth, and they learn to use that care against you. Most people think gaslighting is about individual arguments. It isn't. The real damage is cumulative. Here is what sustained gaslighting does to a person over months and years. It destroys your self-trust. You stop being able to read situations clearly because your internal compass has been tampered with so many times that you no longer believe it points north. It creates chronic self-doubt. You begin every decision, even small ones, with the question, am I sure about this? What if I'm wrong? Not healthy doubt, paralytic doubt. It produces hypervigilance. You become exhausted from constantly monitoring your own reactions, asking before every feeling, is this appropriate? Am I overreacting? It isolates you. You stop telling other people what you're experiencing because you'd been taught that your version of events is unreliable. And isolation is exactly where a gaslighter needs you to be. It can produce symptoms indistinguishable from anxiety, depression, and complex PTSD, not because something is clinically wrong with you, because something has been done to you, repeatedly, deliberately, that a healthy mind was not designed to survive without damage. There is one definitive test. Ask yourself this question honestly. Around this person, do you consistently feel more confused, less certain, and less confident in your own perception after conversations than before them? In healthy relationships, even difficult ones, disagreements may be painful, but they produce clarity. You understand what was said. You understand where the problem is. You may not agree, but you know what happened. In a gaslighting relationship, conversations produce fog, not clarity. You leave more confused than when you entered. You cannot reconstruct the argument clearly. You find yourself apologizing, and you cannot explain exactly what for. That fog is not confusion. That fog is the product. It is manufactured, deliberately, to prevent you from seeing clearly enough to name what is happening to you. If your conversations with someone consistently produce fog, you now know what is making it. Now, the most important part, because here is what gaslighting ultimately steals. Not your happiness, not your relationships, your relationship with your own mind. And that is what we are going to rebuild. Step 1. Start a private record. Write down what happens, immediately after it happens. Date, time, what was said, how it made you feel, what their response was. Not to build a legal case, but to give your memory a backup. When someone tells you, that never happened, you will have something that says, it did. Step 2. Trust your body before your mind. Your nervous system registers reality before your thinking brain does. The tightening in your chest, the slight nausea, the feeling of unreality. Your body knew something was wrong long before you could name it. Start listening to it again. It was right. Step 3. Find one external reality check. One trusted person, therapist, close friend, family member, who you can share your experiences with, not to have them validate everything you say, but to have one external perspective that has not been contaminated by the gaslighter's version of reality. Step 4. Practice stating your reality without softening it. Stop saying, I think maybe I felt like perhaps. Start saying, I felt hurt. That is real. Your feelings do not require a disclaimer. Your perception does not require an apology. Stating your reality clearly, out loud, even just to yourself, is an act of psychological resistance. Step 5. Recognize the phrase that ends gaslighting. When someone says, you're overreacting, or that never happened, instead of going internal and examining yourself, try this response, calmly, without aggression. That's interesting, because my experience of what happened is different from yours, and mine is real to me. You are not arguing. You are not escalating. You are simply planting a flag in the ground of your own reality. And that flag, once planted, is very hard to pull up. Step 6. Make self-trust non-negotiable. Every time you catch yourself dismissing your own feeling before you even feel it fully, pause. Let it land. Ask, if I trusted myself completely right now, what would I know? You already know. You have always known. You were just taught not to trust it. Unlearn that lesson. It was never yours to carry. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not the problem. You are someone whose perception of reality was targeted by someone who could not afford for you to see clearly. Because if you saw clearly, you would have left sooner. You would have spoken up sooner. You would have known sooner. And they couldn't have that. So they dimmed the lights. Just like in the film. Just like they've been doing. Over and over. Hoping you'd believe the dark was normal. It isn't. The lights are still on inside you. They always have been. Trust them. Subscribe. We go deep on psychology every week. Comment below. Which of the 5 phrases have you heard? You are not alone. Share this with someone who keeps saying, maybe I'm just too sensitive. Copyright Motivation Thrones. Do not republish without permission.